Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets. It's your boy Road Dog here with the man, the myth, the fishing lure champion, Karl Bryan, fresh off of competition and with a brand new trophy, I understand. Welcome back. Welcome back to civilization, bud.
Thanks, Shoots. Thanks. That's why we had a week off of the podcast, but not really a week off because we released some previously recorded content where we did some presentations on where I guaranteed to solve any business coaching problem on the spot. So we did a few. I think we did 4 of them, and I think we released 2 of them. We didn't release them. So there you go. So we took the week off. I was fishing for 7 days, and Road Dog, as we just touched on in the pre-show, but we caught a group of 4, my best friends, the same best friend since I was 8 years old. We're like brothers, and his older brother, we're all like brothers, and another childhood friend who I've actually known since I was 5, who's a mutual friend of yours and mine, Road Dog, old Darcy. And we between 4 of us, we caught nearly 500 fish. And I know that anybody listening, that sounds a little bit, possibly unbelievable, but we were in the Great White North in a lake. You could literally, you drink the water, like, you just have a water bottle, you just lean over the boat, fill it up and drink it. This is the Great White North. There's bears. The guy who owns it, his dad was actually, if you eaten by a bear. I'm not sure if everybody wants to hear that, but this is a dangerous place. It was a lot of fun, and we caught some serious fish. So there you go, Road Dog. That's what I've been doing. And,
and Darcy was there's like he's far too handsome to be out in the woods that deep.
I believe that's what people are thinking, Chance. There's no doubt in my mind.
All right. Listen, we got a lot, right? So I've got some good questions here for you. One that came in, and this is I've heard this as well. So this is obviously, if I've heard it, it's all over the place. But over the past few months, somebody put, all I've been hearing is that cash is king, and also that cash is trash, right? So obviously a lot of differing opinions, and they were wondering what your opinion is. Obviously given everything that's happening in the world, like what is your take? Is cash king, or is cash in fact useless and trash?
Yeah, you got to be careful. This is where mental models, which we've talked about to death, participate in your life, hopefully, right? You got to be careful with blanket statements like that. And this is coming from an influencer, right? Like anything, you're going to take a statement like that. It needs context, right? Like starting with, who am I talking to? And what's their unique situation? Everybody's got a unique situation. So maybe as a framework, I always talk about establish the little red arrow, you are here, number 1. And then the magical question, what do you want, right? Establish that with the individual, and you have a significantly better way of, or opportunity to provide them some good advice. Like the advice cash is trash is coming from a very high or ultra net worth individual, I dare say 100% of the time. Right? So let's assume 3 levels of wealth, right? So let's go high, and there's actually high net worth, which is I think over $1 million, very high net worth. Let's call that over 5 million, and then ultra high net worth. Let's call that over 25 million net worth, right? I don't know about those exact numbers, and that's what they call it, but no doubt you guys get the idea. But there's high net. So as a framework, let's go high, medium, and low net worth individuals, just so that we're operating with a little bit of context, right? I'd give different advice to depending upon where you are. And of course, I'll assume I'm talking to a business owner, because totally different advice if I'm, talking to a guy working for the man making 100 grand, right? So all the advice I'm going to give is going to be geared towards an entrepreneur or a want to be entrepreneur, right? Have lots of those. Look, there's 3 places to put your money. invest your money. Stock market, real estate, business. The end. Drop the mic. It's over. Well, no, actually, sorry, pick the mic back up. And you're going to add crypto, I would suppose, nowadays. Let's just say that there's 4 places, because I do believe that crypto is not going anywhere. That's not my opinion. That's, if you don't listen to me nor anybody else, look at the regulation and then let that dictate whether or not you feel like crypto is here to stay or going to pass. So let's go. So high net worth individuals, if cash is trash because the government's printing trillions, and you don't, just have a look at inflation, try buy something that needs to be imported and see how that works out for you in terms of the price versus the price, let's say, 2 years ago. So the value of cash is decreasing, and is literally decreasing daily. So it's common sense that if an investment is decreasing, you should immediately do a little bit of homework and consider your options, right? Like Warren Buffett, what's his rules? Rule number 1 of investing, don't lose money. And then rule number 2 is see rule number 1, right? So but that's high net worth individual. So let's go medium net worth individual. There's probably a balance of real estate, stocks, bonds, throw some crypto in there. But importantly, remember, I'm talking to business owners, you need to invest in your own business, right? Like we talked about this to death, but it can never be said enough. Hire a staff member for 50 grand. Make a 10x return over time and have control over your investment. Control, capitalize it, italicize it, and bold it. That's what you want. I want control, right? I don't want to invest in things I don't have control in, right? So like hire a good business coach, hire a good consultant. You make a 10. If you hire, the biggest mistake that business owners make is they hire you and then don't do anything and blame you. They hire you and then just get overwhelmed. Like the best thing you do when you hire a business coach is to like give yourself to the relationship 100%, right? So see that all the time. But if I'm a business coach, I would spend, because that's who we're predominantly speaking to, right? So like spend 5 to 50 grand, arbitrarily throwing those numbers out there, likely closer to 5 for you than 50. But just what I'm trying to say is commit to running live events. And then why are you going to spend up to 50 grand? Because you're not going to stop until you make it work. And once the model is in place, you're going to be bulletproof and have a business where you're a little, you're like a local legend, helping tons of people through your events, whether they pay you or not. And people will start reaching out for more opportunities, clients, the referrals will start flowing, the joint venture opportunities will start flowing, more than you'll know what to do with, right? So in a medium, so what am I saying? A medium net worth, I think that there's a balance there, but absolutely start with what you can control. And this is growing your own business, right? Building up an online advertising campaign that works, right? Works being, don't think that you're going to try an online marketing campaign and have it work in the first crack. And then what do people do? They throw in the towel, right? Like that's what I mean by spending 5 to 50 grand. Just make the damn thing work, right? And then low net worth, right? Cash is king times a million. So if you're low net worth individual, cash is trash. Just like, you know what I mean? Just don't use your mental models and just don't, recency bias, because something Robert Kiyosaki says it on a sponsored ad on your Facebook feed does not make it be. So like you go to business for one reason, right? Just the same way when you're playing Monopoly and have to go to bed early, what happens? You run out of cash. When you run out of cash, when you're playing Monopoly, when you run out of cash, when you're playing business, it's over. That's it, right? So if you're a low net worth individual investing in anything other than your own business, you should definitely look at this hard and fast. And of course, there are anomalies. We know that. Road Dog knows that. Everybody knows that. But we don't play anomalies in real business. Real being the operative word. We play percentages, right? So again, Warren Buffett's here, Ray Dalio, a heavyweight in the entrepreneurial world. They play percentages. Their mind thinks in percentages versus whole numbers a lot of the time. It's literally a superpower. So just look, Bezos, was he investing? There's a stage when he was a low net worth individual, I would imagine. I mean, he had a pretty good job. But at the end of the day, he started Amazon. You see pictures of him sitting at a desk with like a Amazon sign. It's like, what I mean? It's just brutal, very, 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 very average conditions, right? You think he was investing in other assets other than Amazon as he was growing it? No, he did the exact same thing that Bill Gates did, Michael Dell did, Mark Benioff, Mark Cuban, I don't know, Elon Musk, Barbara Corcoran. Marcus Lemonis, what they did, the other legends of business, they put all their eggs in one basket and then watch that basket very, 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 very closely, right? So you guys have heard me talk about multiple streams of income. It's like, it's advice given by people trying to sell you a program or a book that doesn't work. And the guy who's selling it doesn't have multiple streams of income working either, right? So what do I say? And that's not to say, like, I personally have multiple streams of income, right? So it's just that what I want you to think, get one stream of income to 5 million and then talk to me about your second, right? But do not take your eye off the prize until you get at least there. And I'd recommend you go significantly above that, right? But lightweights bet on people other than themselves. So the answer is, Road Dog, it depends. Cash is trash, cash is king, but people that were, listening here and your clients, that are, buying business coaching from you and consulting from you and probably some digital marketing from you, unless you or they are ultra high net worth individuals, and let's call that over 25 million of net worth, you should be investing in you and your business. And if you introduce me to somebody with a net worth of over 25 million that didn't, come from the Happy Sperm Club, I'll introduce you to somebody that's been to numerous events and spent a lot of money on their own personal growth, right? So just stop thinking about Tesla, whether Elon Musk is going to go back to Mars and Bezos is going to go to outer space again, and what the stock market is doing, and checking Bitcoin and crypto 10 times a day and watching it go up and getting really excited and then kicking the dog and getting pissed off when it goes down, looking into NFTs, right? Focus all your resources, especially your attention, on your own business and what you can control, and invest your money in your own business and your own personal development. Anything else, I think, is just stupid times a million. The end. Drop the mic. Conversation over. And also, Road Dog, prior to it, so this is investing. It kind of, we're going into investing advice, and I am not an expert in this area. Speak to, and investing. Let me just tell you this: prior to investing real money, you need to understand two words: asset allocation. I've written about it. I've talked about it at different times. Before you invest, make sure that you understand the three baskets, and just asset allocation, I think, is something that you should understand. So not financial advice. And again, ask somebody smarter, taller, better looking than me. Road Dog, let's move on. But the answer is it depends. And I hope that you got to do two things, Road Dog. You'd establish the little red arrow, you are here, and then establish what it is that they want. And then when you ask somebody what they want, don't expect the first answer to be anything close to right, but that's okay. That's why you're employed and helping them. And really refine that. But if you get it, what I just actually wrote something. We're doing a live event in Cancun, Business Coaching Mastery, and I'm writing on the mugs. And what do I put? I put insane speed requires immense clarity. So that's like the, and all the mugs and that sort of stuff that we're going to have everybody using. That's what it's going to be saying. So I think getting super clear on what you want clarity is going to be magic. So you know all about that, Road Dog. What do you think, bud? That's the answer is it depends. How'd I do?
Depends. Good. Yeah. Also, what you were wearing on your fishing trip. All right. Here's a good question for you. This is, I have a feeling, probably more commonplace than not. Somebody wrote a question, said, hey, like, I got a friend and he's an accountant, a perfect joint venture opportunity. And he's just wondering, like, would you approach a friend differently than you would a regular accountant? So I just think it's a fabulous question, because obviously it's not just like, let's say, cold outreach, who cares about the result? This is, you don't want to mess with that relationship, right? So have you dealt with that in the past? And so how would you do that when a friendship is involved?
Yeah, love it. Yeah, agreed. I have like, nice question. Needing nothing is the way to get everything. Play it cool. The saying "speed kills" comes to mind. Like, if you got a plant and you want it to grow, well, if you water it 10 times a day to help it grow, what are you actually going to do? You're going to kill it, right? If you get divorced at the age of, let's say, 45 because you want another kid, and then or whatever, you get divorced at whatever age, and you feel rushed to get into another relationship, what do you think's going to happen? You're probably going to choose wrong. It'll end poorly. You end up with 2 exes, maybe 2 baby mamas, and I'll let you decide if that's the ideal scenario for you and your family. And the raising of your children, right? Like anyone can ride a tricycle, and if you crash, look, like whatever, right? An 8-year-old daughter, she falls over in her tricycle. She's riding a tricycle. She's very good on her bike, by the way, but whatever, right? It's not a big deal. But not on a tricycle. Now jump in an airplane and tell me how that works out if you crash, right? It's game over. It's the speed, right? So like I've helped business owners who've grown quickly. I remember just you go from 500 grand to 3 mil in record time, and they weren't ready, right? Some major hiccups, right? And in a nutshell, if I were to just encapsulate what goes wrong in that situation, too much revenue and not enough profit. And not enough cash, by the way, not just profit. Profit is theory, cash is fact. So don't just think because you have a profitable business, this little thing called accounts receivable, which means you earn the money, but you haven't necessarily got paid. But anyway, so cash, we've talked about that a lot at different times on the podcast. So be careful with that, right? Like the same skills that got you to 500 grand are not going to get you to 3 million. Right? And certainly won't get you to 30 million. Like introduce me a $10 million company or above, and I'll introduce you an HR company. But they seldom realize it, and it takes very different set of skills. So back to this guy, start talking to your friend about successes. Like you got to think strategy versus tactic, right? Like write about it on Facebook, send referrals his way, solve a problem for him, like help him out. Don't be in a rush. Don't speed kills, right? I'll tell you this, you started as a business coach, you got this consulting business going, and he's an accountant, your buddies. I'm going to give you the red hot tip, okay? He's waiting for you to approach this. So do it in a healthy, intelligent way. So let me go to what we're really, whether this is a buddy or not, what we're talking about is forming a joint venture, right? And the biggest mistake I think that you see is that you go to the JV with like what you want and not establishing what they want, if that makes sense, right? Like you're going to them, hey, like obviously he can send you some clients. My question is, have you taken 2 minutes to think of what the problem that you could solve for him, right? So it's Santa Claus versus the Grinch, and certainly going at them. Let me tell you, here's what not to do times a million. I don't care if he's a buddy or not. But like brute force, this is how much money we'll make. It does not appeal to high-end operators, certainly not accountants with that analytical mindset. It'll turn them off, right? Actually, I wrote an email, I don't know, I'm going to say in the last month, right? Where like Walt Disney wanted something special done at Disneyland, right? So one of his staff approached an artist, and basically the guy that he was approaching, because he was a famous artist or really good or whatever, that like Walt Disney wanted this guy. And the guy said no thanks, and effectively, look, I'm just too busy and I can't be bought, right? Well, Walt Disney, so the guy comes back and says, well, nah, man, look, that's not our guy. We'll have to go elsewhere. And Walt, now if you know anything about Walt Disney, I mean, I know nothing about Walt Disney, but I do know when he wants something, he normally gets it, right? Painfully obvious back in his day. So he goes to him, he says to the staff member something along these lines, right? Did you ask him what he wants and that he can't get? Right? And the employee, naturally, what do you think he said? He said no. And this had something to do with Abraham Lincoln, by the way. There was a specific Abraham Lincoln area or like theme within Disneyland, and that's why he needed to have this exact guy, right? So he goes, look, go back and I want you to ask that question. What is it that he can't get that he wants, right? So he goes back, and it turns out the guy needed, again, tens of millions of dollars for something that he needed, like a research facility. And Walt sat down, they came to an agreement, Walt lent him the money, and it became part of the deal. And next thing you know, this guy is building, the Abraham Lincoln, themed area within Disneyland, right? So whether this accountant, buddy or not, give him what he wants. Ask him point blank, like when the time is right. Again, he's waiting for this, right? I'll give this again the red hot tip. That's happening, and that is probably not now. Like again, in a strategic way, you're slow playing it and talking about successes, maybe sending him some referrals, over a beer, and just don't you walk into a sales pitch, and you're just lame. What do you want? What do you need that you can't get? What do your clients need? What are your clients consistently coming to you like as a problem that you're not serving them? and that you wish you could? Like these types of questions. And again, very careful. I think this is a buddy of yours. I would be very careful not to fall into a sales pitch, because you're going to see it coming. So just real quick, look, accountants. So that again, whether this is a buddy or not, accountants, there's two primary solutions that I would go to an accountant with, and I promise you this is a pain point, and if you can solve it, they'll like it. People come to an accountant, they go to see the accountant once a year. It tends to be 3 months after the year is over, and it's just it's insane. And then there's rush. They call it tax season, right? And the accountant's so damn busy, he can't get home to have dinner and lunch and yada yada yada. But when the accountant has a client that comes to see him, quarterly, like 4 times a year, monthly, 12 times a year, these are the guys that don't participate in the rush at the end of the year, because their books are basically done. You know what I mean? Like they're done throughout the year, so they don't have that rush. This is the accountant's ideal client. This is what he wants. So the solution you provide is introduce me to 4 clients with decent businesses that are not coming in regularly. And part of what I will do is I will make sure that we start getting proper financial documentation with and for these guys, so they'll become 4 to 12 time a year clients, instead of once a year $2,500 pains in the what, right? That he's going to say, I'm willing to. And then you say, don't send me every person you ever met. Take me for a test drive. Send me 3 people. Let's see what, let's look at it as a body of work, how it works out. And in 6 months, we can decide if we're going to step it up. So that's a problem that you can solve. The other one is that their clients don't know how to market, and they know that. The accountant knows that, but it's challenging, right? Like the number of, imagine an accountant winding up books. Could you imagine how painful that experience is? And the accountant knows that the other plumber is crushing it, and this guy is going out of business. What's the gap? What's the way that he was operating his business, right? It's not that the demand's not there. He just doesn't know what he's doing. So basically, what if you ran a workshop for 4 to 10 of his clients in his boardroom every Tuesday, every second Tuesday, once a month, whatever, and educated his clients on how to grow a business and all the XYZs, and certainly profit acceleration software, and the magic that provides, like in the 12 areas. Like, are they doing the 12 areas? And the answer is going to be no. Otherwise, they would have a thriving business. So Road Dog, that's a buddy. I like that question. I agree. And yeah, I would just go about it. Understand that he's probably waiting for it. So go about it strategically and bring some value to him. And how do you do that? You just ask him the question. What don't you have that you want? And see if you can fill the gap. What do you think? Make sense? Like,
just take the pressure off. Jeez, like where's like this whole urgency to just want to freaking close everybody? Like, just pump your brakes and have an honest conversation with your buddy. That's what I would say, but that's just me. Like,
well said. There you go. Do that.
Anyways, so we look.
Buddy the beer, right? Nice and easy.
This is it. This is it. Don't overcomplicate it. Life's complicated enough. So look, I've done some successful JVs in my day. Obviously, no doubt, right? You agree, it's the ultimate form of leverage for a business coach. That you would agree, right? That the ability to form a JV is the ultimate.
Yeah. Yes, I would agree with that. Yeah, right. Certainly right up there. I mean, we can go back and forth, but the form of joint venture, it's a secret sauce. It's a magic pill, without doubt.
Got it. Okay. Anything else? Can you dive into that a little bit more, maybe, like in terms of just JVs in general?
Yes, so leverage. I can think. Okay, so look. Okay, the other way to do it, think of Shark Tank syndrome as an example, right? Like everyone thinks money. So when you say leverage, everybody's thinking money, right? It's the missing piece for them to grow their business. It's like I don't know if it's natural instinct, but that just seems to be where everybody goes. Certainly those that don't, let's say, without sounding harsh, but thinking at a higher level or asking intelligent questions, right? It's just the obvious, I need money, as though money is going to equal sales, right? And sometimes that is the solution, and sometimes that is what they need, right? But certainly not the instant, right? So you watch Shark Tank and everybody's giving away, 10, 20, 30, 50% of their company for a check up front, right? So money's the most intriguing and desired, but it comes with the highest price tag times 1,000, hardest to get, cause you the most issues, create compliance that'd make a grown man cry. So just think of quarterly reporting as an example, and I'll let you guess what your investors are looking for in quarterly reporting, right? Profits. Well, what if your profits are down and now you got to answer a bunch of questions? Well, talk to Bezos and tell me if having a magically unbelievable profitable business is necessarily the best. He had a very different roadmap, and if you don't know that roadmap, we've talked about it in the past, and it's certainly something. Just go to his letters to shareholders and start at his first and read through to his last, and that will explain the Amazon way, which turned traditional business on its ear. But let's continue. Look, answer differently. Okay, so we're talking about leverage on a joint venture. Like, let's say that there were 3 ways that I was gonna, get money for my business, right? Like, one would be from a venture capitalist, which means I'm gonna give it away, like Shark Tank style, right? So Road Dogg, you give me 100 grand, and I give you 10% or whatever number we negotiate, right? 2 would be like I would go to an institution, like, think of a bank, or go to somebody and get a loan. And they do that on Shark Tank as well. You see that they give loans, but then they put, 12% in front of them, which is, a high interest rate, right? But you go to the bank and get the money. So that's another way of doing it. So you go to a venture capitalist, 1, you get a loan, 2, or 3, you give me access to a database with my ideal clients. So think of our friend with the accountant, right? I would take number 3 over the $1 million so fast, your head would spin. Why? Like, think of it as other people. You know how you say other people's money? Think of it as other people's customers. Okay, so OPC, I guess we could call it. Look, first of all, it could be worth more than, if you understand how to do it, you do it successfully. Could be worth well over $1 million when all is said and done. I don't need to pay back 5 cents, right? There's no interest like the 12% that I talked about, right? I still own my entire company. There's no ongoing compliance. I'm not answerable to anybody else, right? I don't need to send quarterly reports and, answer to a venture capitalist who wants to know why my profits were down, this quarter, when I know exactly why. And it's because I'm running my business strategically with a bigger game plan than on profits in a specific quarter or month, right? So, and like when you call it bootstrapping, by the way, when you build a company without outside investment, right? Like basically what you do is you load up credit cards. You've all probably heard that story. But by doing it with JVs, you can build your business in record time, right? But and people don't do this, and it's insane. This is something, again, just every time you walk into Walmart and there's McDonald's, that's a JV. You walk into the gas station and there's Dunkin' Donuts or whatever, that's a JV, right? They're just doing it at a slightly higher level. Like, growing your business in this manner is something that your clients are not doing. I can pretty much guarantee it, and the opportunities are mind-boggling. I remember, like, I did a deal with a high-end internet marketer that you guys would have heard of, right? They bring in experts that do an hour and a half talk or whatever it is, an hour to 2 hour, call it a 90-minute talk, and they make $10,000 to $50,000 instantly in commission on one night, right? Sometimes plenty more than that. So I went to them and I said, well, that's not the way my model works, but what we'll do is we'll give you we'll give you a commission on the back end, right? And basically on night 1, they earned very little, but I said, look, let's do this as a body of work and see where we're at in 6, 12, 18 months, right? Well, many months later, I've sent them tens of thousands of dollars, but the magic is that every month it just continues, right? So of course, now they're asking me back, which I've very, politely declined. I just got other stuff on, forget that story. But it's a very profitable 90 minutes for both parties, but the magic is that it continues, whereas they got the one shot 10, 25, 50 grand in one night, but this is residual, and it's just, recurring, and it's happening every month. So the X factor here is that rather than build your business one at a time, and advertise on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, cold call, cold DM, get one customer at a time. Let's call it out in the cold, right? You could go to your perfect JV and get ideal clients. Like go to someone that has gone through 1,000 clients to get to their ideal 150. Think of the accountant, right? And they continue to pay, stay, and refer. Those 150 clients are absolutely priceless to you, right? Like, so getting clients from out in the cold is hoping you'll find the ideal ones. When you go to the established folks and the clients of the accountant who's running his practice and been doing it, for a body of work successfully, that can accelerate your growth big time. And of course, for your clients. Said differently, I'd rather get 5 ideal clients from a JV. Like let's say they have 100 customers and I get 5 ideal clients rather than getting 50 clients from out in the cold, right? So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. And then working out, that I'd rather have 45 of the 50 clients buy from my competition. Why? Because they're the squeaky wheel that wants to keep getting the oil, and just, incredibly painful. No doubt you guys have experienced one of those clients, right? So who could you go to? Spend some time, pen, paper, maybe a whiteboard, and just go through and who locally has got my ideal clients, right? Think about the logic there. Like someone that has like an accountant in good standing, clients with an accountant in good standing, that's a perfect coaching client for you, right? And and probably somebody who's looking to grow. And this is where you could step in. So the ultimate form of leverage, other people's customers that fit your profile of what I'll call an ideal client. Look, here it is, write it on a post-it note. Not all customers are created equal, right? So again, think of, you got 50 clients, you want to give back 45. Who are the 5? Go chasing those 5. The highest leverage position you could put yourself in is to only be talking to ideal clients, right? But you need to solve their problems, not have them. You need to solve their problem, not have them solve your problem, right? That's the number one mistake when forming a JV, followed up by the line of thinking, how can I pay these guys the least, right? Like I could have done something like look, how could I? A different question is, how can I pay these guys the most? Do you think they're going to be inviting you back? And the answer is absolutely. But everybody's trying to work out, how can I pay them less? That's the wrong approach, certainly at the beginning of a relationship. And I've done JV deals where I lost just tens of thousands of dollars up front, day one. But because I understand lifetime value, I made it up on the back end big time, and to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it cost me tens of thousands to make hundreds of thousands. And by the way, it cost you hundreds to make thousands, cost you thousands to make 10,000s, cost you 10,000s to make 100,000s, cost you 100,000s to make millions, right? Like business is just a game, right? Like it's playing with zeros back and forth. And approaching it a little bit like Monopoly might help you with that. But you have to do that though, you need to have a real value proposition. So if you are a bad business coach and you go to an accountant and form the deal that we're talking about here, what's going to happen? Look into the crystal ball, and you're going to lose the client, you're going to lose the relationship, probably lose a little bit of face. You got to make sure that you deliver. You need to have a real value proposition. Your clients need to have a real value proposition. I always talk like become world class. Before we do anything, start marketing and Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and online on Google, whatnot. Make sure that your value proposition is second to none. And the 2 most important numbers to know to make what I just described work, 2 of them: cost of client acquisition and lifetime value of a client. And we talk to people all the time and they say that they know it. I'm going to tell you that they don't. Cost of client acquisition is mission critical, my man. So there you go. What do you think, Shoots?
Nice. I just have a feeling you had a little bit more to say there. So what are we doing here? Let's see. I'm going to go into the archives here because I've been sitting on this question for, oh my God, months. It's in regards to BNI and chamber and all that sort of networking stuff, because I know that everybody still loves doing that. And obviously, as the world sort of opens up again, this is becoming more and more of a strategy again. So, because somebody a while back had written a question, I've been going to BNI and Chamber type events and finding low-end business owners, and they can't afford me. Is there a better strategy? And I get this pain, by the way. Any guidance on that?
Yes, and is there a better strategy? The answer is yes. I don't know, there's a saying in business, you get what you deserve, right? So if you're just starting out, you don't deserve a lot. This is where you get the realtor, the insurance guy, the financial planner, right? Think being predictable. They're all there for the same reason as you. So when you go to BNI, magically they're not surprised when you're trying to, be super helpful, and then magically you turn it into an opportunity to sell them. And that's who goes to these events, by the way, right? Few exceptions, of course, but generally you're going to find that BNI is a lower end environment. And so the solution, I guess, so I define a problem that if you go to BNI, you're getting lower end business owners, and you're ready to take the next step and find the real business owners and charging, real numbers, and really, start leveling up both your business and yourself and your fees, etc. Like, I'd go to the golf course, right? I'd go to the oil and gas club. I would go to the yacht club. Places where people with money hang out. And as I say that, I'm going to say that sounds like common sense, but I'm going to say, show me the piece of paper where you've written down the 10 local hangouts where people with money go, right? And there's a good chance you haven't taken the time to do that. You kind of get it instinctively. I was talking to a young guy. I was filling my car up with gas on the weekend, and he comes up and then he was like, Yeti, he was just asking me some questions to do. And then he was telling me how he wants to learn how to invest, or no, he is learning to invest. And what I said to him is, I said, okay, so that's cool. Actually, started a long conversation. His mom ended up coming up, and it was legendary kid. Love the kid, right? Number one, he wants to start a business, right? And then I want to start a business one day. Kid's 13 years old, right? I said, so what kind of business do you want to start? And then he said to me, a deli. And I said, cool. And I by the way, or actually, I think he said cafe. He said cafe. And I was like, okay, cool. Like cafe sounds like a good. So I said, are you a good cook? And he says, no. And I'm like, okay, one strike, but that's okay, right? You don't need to be able to, cut hair to own a hair salon, but what the hell? But I said, but that might be something you might want to work on if you want to own a cafe, right? And he kind of giggled, yeah. And I said, here's an idea. I said, why don't you start making something really cool? Like I said, do you like banana bread? I love banana bread, right? So do you like banana bread? He says, yes, right? And I'm like, why don't you learn how to make the best, like we live in Kelowna, the best banana bread in Kelowna, right? Now you make it and then you go to the local cafe and then you sell it to them. I said, would that be a good way for you to take 1 foot and put it towards owning a cafe one day? And I could see it. He's like, oh, and he smiled, and we were, blah, 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 blah. So then we went on a little bit, and I said, look, oh, actually, okay. So then we segued into, and he said that he would like to learn how to invest. And I said, cool. So tell me what's the number? So he has done some homework, read a couple of books on investing. And I said, what's the number one thing that you've learned about investing? It's literally yesterday, Road Dog, right? So the kid says he goes to invest for the long term, right? And I gave him a high five, and I'm like, boom. I'm like, if you didn't say that, I said, I was going to tell you that, right? I said, another thing I will tell you, success, and this was according to Warren Buffett, somebody, if you don't know who that is, kid, that's somebody a million times smarter than I will ever be. But what he will tell you is that success will be dictated on one thing over all else, and that's when you start, right? So I said, so that segued into, so I said, so you're learning about investing, right? And I said, but are you investing? And he said, no. And I said, when are you setting up your account? And he said, something in the effect of, I don't know. And I said to him, and I just said, look, there is knowing and doing. And I said, you're on the path to knowing by reading the books, doing whatever you're doing, right? But I said, doing is going to be your greatest teacher times a million. So I said, it doesn't matter that this is the thing. Just because you're 13 and your parents do or don't invest is irrelevant. Start tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, go home and set up an investment account and be willing to light a little bit of money. I don't know if I said this right, but you know, you're going to lose a little bit of money, kid, right? But like, we all know that that money could be lit on fire. But guess what? Like, is he going to learn when his money lights on fire, or is he not going to learn? We all know that he's going to learn significantly more when the money lights on fire than when he makes the 100% return, right? So doing is going to be his best friend. So anyways, why am I getting on that? The advice that I gave him and that I would want to give to everybody here, it's just, you got to do, right? Like, it's not like knowing all this stuff, like knowing the yacht club is where the people hang out, and the oil and gas club is where they hang out, and the golf course is where they hang out, is knowing. But my question, are you doing? I'm going to dare say there's a good chance that the answer is no, right? And then you're going to go to the yacht club and maybe you're not going to feel super comfortable, right? Well, guess what? You're going to be uncomfortable until you're not, right? And then you're all of a sudden going to be comfortable, and you're going to make lots of new friends. And these are going to be the type of friends who can, you know, refer other successful, you know what I mean? It's just leveling up. The level of conversations are going to be higher. The level of referrals are going to be higher. The level of clients are going to be higher. It's just the way it works. But again, you're uncomfortable until you're not. And by the way, if you go to those events, oil and gas, yacht club, etc., like a dog on a bone, trying to make sales, you're not going to crack the inner circle. You're probably going to, in a polite, they're not going to show you the door and kick you out like a bouncer at a nightclub, but they, you know, suddenly you're just not going to be part of that group, if you know what I mean, right? So, you know, and by the way, okay, so this might also be of help. So back to, like, what are we going to call it? BNI, or the lower end networking groups. If that's, I think that's fair to say, right? Like if you, I would start, like, what you do is start your own. If you feel like networking is something you're gifted at, you enjoy, and it's a bit of fun, I would challenge you to go start your own networking group and become competition to BNI. The number of coaching clients that you could get through having your own networking group make your eyes water. But strategy over tactic. You're going to make all the money today, tomorrow, next week? No, it's going to take enormous amount of time, effort, energy. You're going to have to be 100%, 110, 1,000%, 1,000,000% in. You know what I mean? Like, if you're just, you know, dabbling and wondering if business coaching is for you, don't do this, right? Like, terrible idea, because you're going to light a bunch of, you know, time, effort, and potentially money on fire. But if you're totally in, I would think about starting your own networking group, because Road Dog, we've talked about this, right? Like, if I go to a BNI or whatever networking group, there's somebody standing at the front, and then there's 10 people around the table, the person standing at the front gets more referrals than the 10 people combined, right? It's the way it works. So I'm just saying, again, if you followed our podcast, you would have heard this, I would imagine, at some stage, but the guy at the front of the room makes all the money. And of course, that is an exaggeration, but think about it. Like, put yourself in a position where you're controlling it, right? And again, then just look at BNI, which I think there's holes all over BNI times freaking million. And that, because look, people need to be educated, right? The problem is that I go to BNI and they say, come with your elevator pitch, but they don't, like, you know, educate me on how to grow a business. A business isn't just about getting referrals. Like, my goodness, like, that's 1% of, you know, 100% model of building a company, right? Like, have a value proposition, have an upsell, have a downsell, have a cross sell, have a proper upfront offer. So anyway, so BNI, what I just said is that I think that it lacks education. So if I owned a networking organization, there would be education as a foundational part of it. And then just think of, we've talked about this, there's stuff that you might like, right? Like, Road Dog's a pretty good golfer. He could do golf networking, right? Pickleball. I'm gonna think, where do I fit in here, right? Pickleball. I've never played pickleball, but I bet it sounds like a lot of fun. But maybe I'm like amazing at pickleball, a real natural if I ever get into it. I could do pickleball networking, right? Beer and wine networking. That might be your thing, and that might not. If I was going to personally run a networking group, look, I like to have a couple beers, right? No shame in that. I just, a little bit of fun sitting around. You have a wine, I have a beer. Business owners like to do that. That's the kind of networking group that I would set up. Might not be for you, might be perfect for you. That might be a good setup, right? Cigar networking. Bourbon, you know, bourbon might be your shtick and not beer, right? Well, do bourbon networking and hang out with a bunch of other guys that enjoy sipping on bourbon, but not guys, business owners and gals. Like, business owners. And I don't think you're going to get a lot of gals to bourbon networking. So I feel like beer and wine would be a lot stronger, little FYI there. Maybe it's married couples with kids that run a business, right? Like maybe that's going to be your shtick. Like only people involved or, invited are married couple that have kids that are also running a business. I don't know. There's a zillion things you could do there, but consider, running the show as opposed to the opposite. But answer to the question, Road Dog. Yeah, like being actually, I'm gonna finish with this. Very important. Okay. Like let's just use BNI because we're talking about that. But the chamber, there's a bunch of other board of trade. There's a bunch of other examples like it. If I go to BNI and they ask me to be a guest speaker, and let's just say they give me an hour to speak, which they normally wouldn't do that, but let's say that they do. So I go in there, I speak for an hour, yeti, and there's, let's say 25 members in the room. My conversions are X, right? Okay. Which normally not fantastic. I take those exact same 25 people and I put them in my room with my walls in an environment that I control being the most important part. I decide where the table goes. I decide you know what I mean? Like I'm deciding where they're going to sit, classroom style, I put them in my room and my conversions will be, I'm going to just arbitrarily throw a number of like 25%, probably significantly, I'd say 100% better than they will be in the BNI room. So you control the environment with the same 25 people. So running your own events versus being a guest speaker at BNI is a better idea. That being said, you might not have the capacity to go and put 25 people in a room, and BNI have already got them there. So there's a lot of value, and it makes a lot of sense just to roll up to BNI and do your thing and expect smaller conversions, but your cost of client acquisition will be significantly less because you wouldn't have had to go through the headache and the organization of running your own event. I hope that makes sense, right? But the bottom line is that I like to control the environment if my goal is to convert a high percentage of the room. So there you go, Road Dog. That's what I'd say. But yeah, definitely, BNI and chamber, you're going to get lower end, but you get what you deserve is where I started. Start going to mental models. Listen to Road Dog and I. Go to the golf course. Go to the oil and gas club. Go to the yacht club. Start having higher level conversations. Start studying. As much. Again, become world freaking class. Like that's your standard. Well, you're going to attract world-class clients, but maybe right now you're not world-class if you're honest with yourself. So you're the person who has to go. We talk about going to auditions or going to acting school. You might need to go to acting school because the solution to becoming the next Tom Cruise is not the auditions. You got to be good at auditioning, but ultimately you got to be the best actor. You got to be rock solid. So Road Dog, that's what I'd answer, Shoots. What do you think?
But it just reminds me of the local event, the After Five, right? Like you sort of mentioned do something different. So just to give everyone an example, so here in Kelowna, they've got these events, they're called After Five. And it's basically, hey, I think the first beer or something's included, maybe two, I don't remember. Obviously, we haven't had them in a couple of years, but they're packed. Like it was unbelievable. There was probably a couple hundred people there, Carl. Like it was insane, right? Like, so there's a lot of people that are hungry for events and not necessarily BNI. So just keep that in mind. So in 30 seconds or less, do you want to close us out with one thing? Like what do you think? One thing, just go do an event. Is that it? Should I just leave it there? Just do an event?
I think not all customers are created equal. I think that there's huge value in that. As I think, again, you get what you deserve. You know what I mean? When you start deserving a higher level client, you start saying no and handing off the lower end ones and taking on the higher ones. So no, I think that is a value. I also wanted to say the strategic approach that we both discussed there with going, you're going to a buddy who's an accountant, and it's almost like the wording of the question is that I am gonna, go in and close my buddy and just be speed kills, right? Like you water your plant 10 times a day, you kill the bugger. So speed kills, you do things in a strategic way. So that's what I'd say. There you go, Shoots. What do you think?
Beauty. Well, thanks everybody for tuning into another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with the main man on top of the hill, Mr. Karl Bryan, the king himself of Kelowna. This is a fact. And if you're not on the inside getting access to the pre-show, or you just aren't getting Karl's daily emails, like what's wrong with you? Seriously, just go to focus.com, subscribe today, and get on that list. And if you enjoyed the podcast, please share with a fellow coach or someone that you think might make a great coach, salesperson, the highly motivated type. And of course, we'd appreciate if you rate the episode as well, as we know that all these streaming services give a ridiculous amount of weight towards reviews. So please leave us a review if you like what you heard. And that is it for another week. Remember, folks, go do an event. And remember, progress equals happiness. Take care, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.